We got the podcast show here tonight. Let's see if it works. It works. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Confetti. It works.
Congratulations, Joe.
I got you.
Well done.
I can't believe it. Okay, how you guys doing? Jonathan, Brian, good to see you guys. Anybody ever say that you guys are a bunch of squares?
Yes.
It's more of a rectangle.
Rectangles.
Yeah, we're a bunch
more
of rectangles. That's what it is. We're nothing but a bunch of rectangles. All right, we got a great guest with us here tonight, Dave Thomas, who's on vacation, so he's taking a little bit of time to talk with us, and really, really appreciate this because just want to get the lowdown. You guys are going to be going back a week from tomorrow, back to work. You're supposed to have the whole month of off and everything like that. But what?
Full outside, getting some sun and doing a lot of reading.
All right, let's do some reading here for a second. This is Ohio Political News. This is our X account. And Governor DeWine here. This is some earth-shattering news. I wish we had some kind of a siren or something we could play here. He says, but today I announced the formation of the Property Tax Reform Working Group to examine issues and propose concrete recommendations for meaningful property tax reform. Okay. What that is all about is he didn't like some of the property tax items that you guys put into the budget, and he vetoed them. All right? He just vetoed them. And so then you're going to be coming back a week from tomorrow to try to unveto those, correct?
Yeah. To try and override the governor's 3 of the 4 vetoes that he did on the property tax side. He did not veto a handful of the provisions in the budget relating to property taxes, but those were smaller, more minor things. The only thing of major kind of impact to people that he did not veto was a homestead and owner occupancy piggyback. So if counties want to essentially double the savings to seniors, they can do that voluntarily. He did not veto that, but everything else he vetoed.
Okay, so he did not veto that. But let's go over some of the 3 bills that he did veto and that you're going to try to unveto on Monday, a week from tomorrow. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to go with the item number. This is item number 55, and this is a provision that expands the County Budget Commission's authority. Okay, so this, again, was axed, but this would have given more power to the County Budget Commission, and they could reduce fixed sum school levies even after the levies had been approved by the voters. And DeWine vetoed it. He said that this would undermine voter intent, enabling appointed commissions to override decisions that are made at the ballot box. Okay, so that's why he vetoed it. Can you explain a little bit about what this is with the expanded County Budget Commission?
Yeah, so the Budget Commission is already a thing across the state. Every county has one. This provision I kind of jokingly call the Brian Massey or the Chris Galloway Lake County policy, House Bill 309. It is a ability for 3 elected, the governor was incorrect, they're not appointed, they're actually elected members, the county auditor, the county treasurer, and the county prosecutor. Right now, for over 100 years, they've been members of the Budget Commission, and their role is supposed to be to oversee tax rates and keep those tax rates as low as possible for what the actual essential services that voters have approved. But over the years, they've become really rubber stamps. Lake County is probably the go-to perfect example of a county where there's really, really high tax rates. The people are being excessively taxed. Their local entities aren't using the money. They're literally kind of keeping the money in the bank accounts, not using their tax dollars, and providing the services that the voters want. And so the Budget Commission, in that example or across the state, should be looking at how much do these services actually cost. If you vote for a fire levy, for example, and that fire levy generates a certain amount of money, but it can actually generate less, it can charge you less for still the same service that you're approving. That should be kind of all of our goals. And that's what the role of the Budget Commission should be. It's not what it is across the state now. We want to get it back to what it was 100 years ago. So this provision is really, it's actually local control. It's flexible oversight for tax rates. Lake County is probably the one that will see the biggest change and decrease of taxes due to the Budget Commission. Geauga, they've used their Budget Commission to actually prevent spikes and unvoted increases, decrease current tax rates. They've really done a great job with it. And then this provision also has other things too, like if an entity receives unvoted taxes, they actually have to have a resolution, frankly, admitting that they're raising people's property taxes and accepting all of that unvoted increase. Small things like that will make a big difference in the transparency aspect too.
Okay. I know you're pressed for time, Dave. So, Brian, do you have a quick comment on that, or a question, or anything? That is yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Representative Tom is absolutely correct. He and I have talked about this, quite a bit, and also we credit Lake County Auditor Galloway. I've been to numerous meetings and with the Budget Commission, and it was early on. I realized they're supposed to be the watchdog for the taxpayers to ensure that there's checks and balances in the system. And I determined very easily that there are no checks and balances, because, as Representative Thomas was saying, that in Lake County the taxing authorities are just accumulating millions upon millions of dollars. Case in point would be the crime lab. I understand they now have a $10 million surplus, and they're gaining $1.6 million every year. And when I asked why they went to the ballot and with too high of a levy, I was told, well, now they don't have to go back to the taxpayers for 15 years. And unfortunately, I keep telling the commissioners, you cannot continue to take all of this money from the taxpayers. It needs to be in their hands so that they can spend it locally, and that drives the economy. It does no good to have it sitting like Deepwood with $65 million, or Lake Metro Parks with $30 million on their books, or the crime lab with $10 million. They don't need it to operate, and that's what we're trying to address. And the same thing would be with the schools. Okay,
so Dave, so that's one that you guys want to override. DeWine vetoed that. And do you think you have the votes? Do you think you have the votes to override it? Is there a lot of enthusiasm?
There is a ton of enthusiasm. I can tell you, one of my colleagues is supposed to be, his daughter just graduated from college. He's supposed to be on a cruise right now in Europe with her. He delayed his vacation with her. He's joining late to be able to be there to override. Another one is supposed to be in Japan on a business trip. He canceled that business trip to be there to override. So members are really changing, which is our duty. This is our job, is to show up and vote and represent our people. So there's a lot of enthusiasm for it. We need 60 votes in the House. You need 3/5 to override a veto. So 60 votes in the House, 20 votes in the Senate. It's going to be tight. It is going to be close. I can tell you, I am receiving probably an email every 5 minutes from a public school teacher or someone on the government system that's emailing saying that the world's going to end because we're passing these reforms and not to override the governor. So there's a lot of pressure. And some of my colleagues are listening to some of that pressure, but we're encouraging folks, please reach out to your representatives, tell them property taxes need changed, need reformed. It's going to be tight, but we have the votes.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Joe, there was something that I did learn from Representative Thomas, and it was, use his words, the dirty little secret is with these revaluations, the taxing authority is not obligated. They are not obligated to receive that money. They can decline, but they never do in Lake County. Now, I asked Lake Metro Parks. I asked the commissioners. The commissioners got the county got $1.8 million. I said, you don't need it. Give it back to the taxpayers. The same thing with Paul Palagy at the Metro Parks. I think they got $400,000, and with $30 million, I thought it was excessive. But the taxing authorities never returned the money to the people in Lake County.
Geauga, they did, because the Budget Commission was strong and had pressure. And I always tell folks, government's not going to decrease their taxes, their revenue coming in, unless there's pressure to do so. So that's why the Budget Commission is such a strong piece of our reform.
Okay, let me ask a question here that's in the chat. So if you're in the chat, please chat. We'd love to have the chat going. So chat, and we'll try to work your chats in.
That's a great question in there.
All right. I got to put on these things so I can read it. Angela Marlowe. Why is a county prosecutor on the Budget Commission and not a county commissioner? So I don't know which county she's referring to, but maybe it just
all counties. Every county has a county commissioner on there. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, every county, this is the makeup, is the auditor, treasurer, the two financial heads, essentially the county. And the prosecutor's been there for 100 years since we've had the Budget Commission as kind of the legal presence to be able to say, are we acting legally, not legally? They've frankly been the problem, not allowing budget commissions to have the oversight. The House, in our version of the budget, actually removed them from the Budget Commission, placed a county commissioner on the Budget Commission instead. Problem with that was, as Brian said, some of the issues with carryovers and excessive taxation is at the county level. So who is that best third person? We ultimately had a compromise where it's the prosecutor. If they feel that they don't have enough time, enough bandwidth to serve, it would be a county commissioner then that would serve in their place.
All right, let's move on here to this next one. This is item
Joe,
six.
the other important thing, Joe, though, on the county prosecutor in Lake County, the problem is a conflict of interest. If you have the prosecutor that's on the county commission, he's also in Lake County. He also represents some of the taxing authorities. So if there's an issue with, for example, with Deepwood, as we had a few years ago, Prosecutor Colson had to recuse himself. So there is, I agree with Rep. Thomas that the prosecutor doesn't belong on that board.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. Here's another real quick question. Maybe just answer this in like 5 seconds, and I'll move on to the next budget item. But this is from Matches 10. Do you need 3/5 of the entire chamber or 3/5 of the people that show up to vote on Monday?
3/5 of the entire chamber. So 60 members have to vote yes to override.
Okay, you're going to have to get 60 votes. You have to get 60 votes. Gotcha. And somebody wants to know what the status is of the signatures for the petition to abolish property taxes. Brian, is it going well? Just yay, nay, whatever?
Yeah, it's going well. We're keeping the total number of signatures close to our vest. But I can tell you we have, of the 88 counties, we have 81 counties. We have signatures from 81 of the 88 counties. And our goal is to get to all 88 counties and at least 44 of them with the minimum 5%. So we're very encouraged. People are very motivated. As I go through the state and talk to patriot groups, we have 1,000 circulators throughout the state. So it'll take some work. It's not easy getting.
No, it ain't
we're
gonna be
looking
easy getting all
for
those,
600,000, but
yeah,
we're going to do it.
All right. Somebody wants to know, can you end Section 8 housing? I don't know if that's a question you can answer, but I don't know. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Okay.
My guess is probably no.
Okay. Is it safe to say that the sales taxes will increase? Well, I tell you what, we don't have time for David Thomas to answer some of these questions, but as soon as he leaves, as soon as we kick him out, we'll talk about those questions, okay? Between Jonathan, myself, and Brian, we'll hash those out as soon as Dave Thomas goes back into the pool for a little while. All right, let's talk about item 65 here. It's the expanded 20 mil floor. Okay, so it's expanding to 4 more tax levies: emergency levies, substitute levies, incremental growth levies, combined income property tax levies. Explain, please, what that's about. And I will say this, DeWine vetoed it because he said it would threaten district funding by pulling these additional levies into the floor, many districts would lose revenue. Okay, Dave.
It actually threatens our schools receiving huge spikes in unvoted taxes. That's the sad thing about the four of his vetoes. He viewed it as hurting the schools. What really it does is put the voters in control of how much revenue they're actually giving to their local governments. This veto, this policy, 20 mil floor, guaranteed tax rate for schools, 20 mils worth of tax rate. What's happened is across the state, schools are receiving that guaranteed tax rate. I call this truth in guarantee taxes. So if they're getting that guaranteed tax rate every year, as your value goes up, they're receiving more revenue because they're getting that guaranteed minimum of 20 mils. Schools have not viewed that as enough money. And so they've asked then for their voters for an emergency levy. Emergency levy sounds really kind of scary, sounds like they're an emergency. They got to have the money now. Most of the time, voters will pass emergency levies. And so voters have approved emergency levies, which is additional money on top of that guaranteed tax rate that the schools are already getting. The guaranteed tax rate is not including then all of the extra revenue that the voters have approved from the emergency levy. So it's kind of not gaming the system in a sense, but in a way, it's getting extra revenue without having to give up your guaranteed revenue over here, especially when values increase. So we say if the voters approve taxes, all of that should count towards what the minimum amount the school should be receiving. This would lift about 200 schools off the 20 mil floor, meaning in the next revaluation, your spikes are not going to happen. Your unvoted increases in your taxes are going to be very small. They'll just be what inside millage is, not what inside millage is on top of the 20 mil floor.
Okay, so this will mainly take effect when they do another cost of living or inflation adjusted valuation on the homes. They're not going to spike up like they did this last time. Unfortunately, they spiked up so much, nobody can afford them as they are. Hey, here's another one. The emergency levy and levy increase restrictions. I don't have an item number for this, but this is giving authority. Well, explain that one to me. I guess I don't quite understand it.
This is the last one we're looking to override, and all of these have the theme of putting the voter in control and transparency with your taxes. So right now, the voters, when they go to the ballot, they see all these different types of levies. It's very confusing. They see emergency levies, they see replacement levies, they see renewal levies, substitute levies. It's kind of crazy. So we're saying moving forward, all you're going to see is this a new levy or is this a renewal levy? Are your taxes going to increase or are your taxes going to stay the same? We're going to get away with remove the ability for emergency levies, for replacement levies, for substitute levies, and then for renewals with an increase. So those will no longer exist. The ones that are in place now will phase out, and the voters will have a very clear understanding at the ballot box of what they're actually approving.
Oh, that's excellent. That is good. We got to get these. So those three are going to be on the ballot to override. Okay.
On Monday. Yep.
A week from tomorrow.
Yes.
And you're saying there's a lot of enthusiasm. People who are supposed to be in Japan are not going to be in Japan. They're going to be there to vote. You got to be in person. No Zoom voting or anything, right? You got to be there in person.
I'm begging anyone that's listening, please reach out to your state representative. Give them a call this week. Tell them how important it is to override the governor's vetoes, to enact some property tax reform now. If we don't do these things, we're really looking at no changes in tax bills in January. A third of the state going through another revaluation, huge more spikes, and those people that are going through the revaluations cannot afford those increases.
No. Wow. All right, last question for you. And this somebody wanted me to make sure that I asked you this question, so I'm going to. So there was one property tax item that was vetoed. Item 63 was vetoed, but you're not going to try to override it. This is the, if I'm not mistaken, this is where you have the 40% cash carryover for schools. So schools were would be allowed to carry over 40% of their operating expenses. So if you have a big school, and let's say it's $100 million in operating per year, and some of them are, you could carry over $40 million, no problem. Anything above that has to go back to the state. DeWine vetoed it. He didn't like it. The schools say, we need unlimited funds, basically. We need unlimited funds to keep ourselves going. So why was that not, was there not an attempt to override that?
So the money would not go back to the state. It would actually be a decrease in the tax rate in the following year, and the voters would see less of a tax rate on their bill for the following year. And this is a policy, I loved it. This was the speaker's idea. What we've seen, roughly $2.5 billion, billion with a B, of cash is sitting in school bank accounts right now above 40%. If you take 30%, we're looking at about $5 billion. And if you take 25% and above, you're looking at about $10.5 billion of our taxpayer money that's sitting in the bank accounts of schools, way above their actual need for the following year. And so we wanted to give kind of a clear cut across the board. You can't keep this much more over in your bank, because if you look across the state, where those spikes have happened in property taxes, that money has then gone to our local schools. And in some cases, the local school has used it. I've got a handful of my schools in my district that are at 15% carryover. What that means is they've got 15% of their cash that they have at the end of the year, and they use that until they get their first half settlement in the early part of the following year. We've got many other schools. There are several schools that have 150, 160% carryover, many schools that have over 100% carryover. And when we're talking governments, you're guaranteed essentially that money in the following year. You don't need all this extra cash lying around. And this is the whole argument with the Budget Commission and with other kind of reforms that we're looking at. Tax rates should be as low as humanly possible to still have the essential services that you need, but not be excessively taxing our taxpayers. Now, why we're not looking at this one to override? Frankly, there's probably not the votes for it. We have a majority of the House likes this policy, wants this policy. We don't have that 60 vote number, though, unfortunately, to get it there. There's just too much pressure, I think, from some of the schools on some of the members, and we're not able to get to that 60 threshold.
All right.
Which is unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. Yeah, it's a little frustrating. It sounds like that bill, more than the others, might benefit the taxpayers. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So at least you get knocked out 3 of those 4. So you guys must, I'm sure you do, you call each other, you talk, you have the votes before you go in there. Because nobody wants to go in off of vacation, find out, you don't have the votes to make this happen. So I would assume that you guys have did your due diligence and shouldn't be any problems.
If it does happen next week, if we all get there on Monday and we only have 59 or 58 members because a handful of members said we don't want to vote on this, we're staying home, that is a huge disservice to their taxpayers. And I just can't say how bad that would be for those members who aren't doing their responsibility.
No, especially the guy that's coming from Japan. He's putting that on hold. Yeah, that would be criminal. Hey, Dave, I'm going to let you get back to your vacation. Really appreciate you taking the time tonight just to fill us in on this. I appreciate it very much. So
thank you
very much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for spreading the word. If listeners out there have any questions, they can always reach out. Happy to help explain. But yes, please contact your state reps, your state senators. Encourage them to override, because we're hearing from the other side literally every 5 minutes right now.
That's amazing.
So
nonstop.
Wow.
Yeah, lobbyists. Nonstop lobbyists are contacting them and everything.
Endless.
Thanks,
Rep. Thomas.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Enjoy your
Okay,
vacation.
what we can do now is if we have people that have questions about property taxes and stuff in the chat, just throw them in, because we'll go after it. We'll spend a little bit of time right now talking about that. Also, coming up in a half hour, we have Bob Frantz from AM 1420 radio. So he's going to be here. He's a superstar. So we got a superstar coming on at 8:00. That'll be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. All right, here's a question. Let's see what this says here. It says, this is from Elgin Mercado. Is it safe to say that sales taxes will increase if we do away with the property taxes?
I know what a lot of people would answer, but my answer is absolutely not. My answer, because I want to start with the position of sanity and math and audit and numbers, is we have to doge these things. Yes, I understand that at this point, because of whatever's happening with Elon Musk and Trump, there are some people that have given me feedback that they're on the fence about the Doge expression or whatever, but it's a good thing. It works. And I'm going to keep saying Doge. We need to Doge Ohio. We need to clean these things up. Rep. Thomas made some comments that really hit a nerve with me. And that has to do with the cost of the things that we're getting. The cost, if it's egregious, and we can finally get as a public to the point where we can acknowledge and recognize the vast, preposterous, and ridiculous overspending. I think it's Brian Massey has an expression for it. We don't have a taxing problem, we have a spending problem. And I think that's well put. I think if we start off from the position, we the people of Ohio, if we start from the position of conceding defeat, that sure, okay, yeah, we'll spend $1 trillion an hour or whatever, then sure, if you take away one of the hammers that's crushing we the people and making us homeless, and that's property tax, that some other tax somewhere else is going to go up. But I disagree, because I think the starting point needs to be, what can we cut? What can we scale back and right size? And we've got so much fat to trim. I think we could, if we did our job well, we could very easily get to the point where we can eliminate property tax and also have surplus. But we need to get rid of just a ton of stuff out there. And yes, there are some of us that have fought against things like Jobs Ohio. Jobs Ohio is in my book, it's a preposterous nightmare, and it's a great example. It is a smaller version of USAID at the state level in Ohio. It is a cesspool. It's a pool to dump money into and get virtually nothing in return for it. Billions of dollars flow into the thing, and then go expand from there. Look at the expense of public schools. I've touched on it a number of times. When you have a public school that's north of $40,000 per pupil per year for barely literate, we have a problem. We have a spending problem. And you can go on to Parks and Recreation, Department of Transportation, roads and bridges, you name it. There is fat to be trimmed in a great number of these enterprises. Let's right size those and then come to the table and talk about what should happen when we eliminate property taxes. Only then, once we have right sized. Because if we let government continue to have their way, they will continue to increase, spend more, expand programs, hire more government workers. We see what's happening on the news right now after however many decades of these government workers who just continue to fill these buildings in and around Washington, D.C. And as far as I can tell, 90% of them don't even actually have a job to do. They fill a seat, maybe they show up to work. I'm sorry to be.
Well, they're overpaid. They're overpaid. They got great pensions. They got benefits.
They're overpaid and they have great pensions.
And they
but
don't
we're
do
also
anything.
finding out that many of them, they have these credit cards, multiple credit cards. They have vast expense accounts, and some of them never show up to their actual office. Those are jobs, and I think it happens at the state level. I think that we need to find those at the state level and eliminate them. We're not paying taxes so that our state and county government can be a welfare system for people that don't want to get real jobs. And we're seeing that. We need to scale back significantly on our state and local expenses, then come to the table with the property tax equation.
All right, leave that chat up there for a second.
Amen.
Yeah, amen to that one.
Hey, Leonard.
There is an amen out there.
Amen.
I
Hey, sir.
recognize that amen. How you doing? How you doing, Leonard?
Fantastic.
All right.
Let me
so,
get my screen here.
yeah, get your screen fixed. Property taxation is very complicated. Did the provisions to simplify property taxation for more voter understanding, did that get vetoed? I don't know, but I do tell you one thing. If your constitutional amendment gets passed, property taxes are going to become very simple.
Yeah, Angela's correct. It's so complicated, even some of the legislators don't understand it. So, how can you be voting on something that you really don't understand? Inside, outside millage, House Bill 920, 20 mil floor. It's overly complicated, and it has to be changed. I agree completely with John and what he said, and that is when people are saying, "Well, Brian, how are you going to replace all the money that we collect through property taxes?" I said, "Well, we looked at the CUP reports, and we determined that I think it was 13 billion. If my memory serves me right, and we said that 13 billion is taken from the local taxpayers all throughout the state of Ohio, and we'd need about, I think it was a 4.5% sales tax if you were to just replace dollar for dollar. But we're saying that doesn't solve any problems." And Jonathan's absolutely right. We have to take a look here, and do we need 611 school districts? Lake County's got 9 school districts. We've got 9 superintendents, 9 curriculum directors. Can't that be consolidated in any some way, shape, or form? Can we have a county school system now where you have one superintendent that's running all the schools in the county? And you don't need all the principals and all the assistant principals. It's an administration. I'm not saying that teachers are overpaid. I think we've got far too many administrators, and school unions just love it because they're getting more money. So it's just not sustainable. And then when you take a look at the proficiency scores, they're abysmal. So they expect us to go bankrupt to support a school system it's not number one in the country, that's for sure.
All right, you were out there and you interviewed this woman. I want to play
I'm
this
Sheila
here.
Caruso, and I live in Ashtabula, Ohio. Senior citizens who are unable to work on Social Security, our taxes are going up every year. It's hard enough to make ends meet, keeping up your maintenance on your home and replacing appliances, let alone paying these property taxes. And I have got friends my age who have lost their homes to taxes. Unfortunately, I don't have a big bank account to fall back on. My husband died over 30 years ago, and I had to finish raising 4 kids by myself, which I worked, but it takes money to raise kids and do it right. And I don't have any savings. My Social Security is all I have. And I don't feel it's fair to lose my home because I have to pay rent on a home that I've already paid for.
Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense because you've paid off the home, and all it is you've gone from buying a home to now becoming a renter of that home. Tell me that makes sense.
Joe.
Yeah, tell me how much sense that makes. That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Here's a question. What does that say? They turn around and use the extra revenue to join pilot programs which fund physical infrastructure upgrades needed for new development, which in turn increases home values. It's a cycle. It is.
I can't.
It is a
I
cycle.
can't tell you, Joe, that developers are not too happy with us on the whole issue of the property taxes because they get their TIFs, and some developers have told me directly that they couldn't support our initiative because they're going to be impacted with their taxpayer incremental funding.
Well,
so everybody's got their own
everybody's got
to gore, I guess.
Yeah, everybody's got their own way of getting into the pockets of the state lawmakers and getting their piece of the pie. It's terrible, but like you said, everybody's got a lobbyist except the citizens. We don't have that.
Sure we do. Brian Massey.
Yeah, Brian Massey is the lobbyist for the citizens. But
Oh,
yeah,
I'll tell you, the commissioners hated when I came up with that. I remember Dan Troy, saying, "Well, we're the lobbyists for citizens." Well, good luck with that one, Dan.
Yeah, right. They couldn't give a rat's you know what about the citizens. They just don't. Okay, and the property tax thing. It's amazing to me because they're going back a week from tomorrow to undo 3 of the 4 tax issues. Now, unfortunately, the 4th one is probably the biggest, and they're not even going to attempt it because they don't have 60 votes for it. That one would have really made an improvement. But it's a start. I love this.
Did you hear Representative Thomas, though? He was saying that some of the schools have over 100% of their operating budget in their bank account.
Yeah.
Joe, we gotta cut that one out. That
could be 70,
that is
80,
a huge
$100 million right there, just sitting in the bank. That's it, just sitting in the bank.
What was the number that he said? Was it 10 billion? If we dropped, instead of 40%, if we dropped it to 25%, that would free up. Was it 10 billion? He said. I'll have to. Listen to his speech again. I think it was 10 billion. I think
it was about 10 billion.
10 billion.
Yeah. Well,
that's a lot of money.
Now let's see what we got here. That's why property taxes have to be axed. I live in Butler County. Now Butler is that
That's Cincinnati?
Dayton? Oh, Cincinnati.
I think
okay.
it's I think.
Okay, so she lives near Cincinnati. And my kids were high school?
Homeschooled.
Oh, homeschooled because I was military active duty overseas, but still had to pay absolutely. If you homeschool, you're not exempt. They don't.
I know that.
You ain't exempt if you're homeschooled.
Chime in there, Leonard, with the homeschooling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there.
So were you
I've been there on the
homeschooled,
homeschooling
Leonard?
thing.
Were you homeschooled?
We homeschooled our children.
Okay, you homeschooled your kids.
But
okay.
and we paid for the public education as well as homeschooling our children. And what's really interesting, Jonathan brought up a good point about the cost of education. And what's really interesting is that number that he quoted. I mean, and this is just probably, on the high end, but even if it was middle or whatever, we didn't spend over $6,500 for 2 kids over a 10-year period because it doesn't take 12 years to educate a child. So we have got something fundamentally wrong with our whole approach. And the other thing that amazes me, Joe, is this. If you look at the economics, and you don't have to be a financial guru, if you look at the trajectory that we're on, you can't even sustain this. So we have to be forced to look at cutting back because we keep talking about increasing or replacing. Why would I want to do that when I can't even sustain what I have now? It makes no sense. We're not even thinking clearly. So this is amazing to me. That's why the whole state is all jacked up.
Well put. Spot on.
Oh, you're not kidding. The whole thing is so screwed up, but it's going to take a movement. It's going to take somebody with a movement to abolish property taxes to get this whole mess cleaned up. I don't know where we're going to find somebody like that, but
yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. We're committed. I tell you, I was down in Medina talking to the Patriots in Medina at the Thirsty Cowboy this past Saturday, and as Leonard and I and John Maher, go through the state, there is a real movement. We pushed it, over the edge. It's now gaining speed, and as politicians better take note that they've got to do something, and it's not just something small like raising the homestead exemption a few $1,000s. They've got to do something very, very meaningful, and we're saying that. The DeRolf case in 1997 said it was unconstitutional to use your home values, the property taxes for funding of schools. They did nothing about it, and now there's going to be a price to pay if they don't do something about it now. And Governor DeWine says, this is important, Governor DeWine said that There's two main sources of revenue for the schools, and that being the income tax and the property tax. And now they're tooting their horn that they reduce the income tax, and ultimately they want to eliminate the income tax. Therefore, that means to me that there's going to be a heavy emphasis on the property taxes, unless they come up with some other magic. If they want to use the sales tax, it's not sustainable. And I hear Vivek Ramaswamy saying he's going to eliminate both. Okay, well, he hasn't come up with how he's going to fund the schools.
All right.
And that's why we're being chastised. We're being saying, well, how can you eliminate the property tax without you, citizens, telling us how we're going to fund the schools? But you've got a guy running for governor, and
I'll tell him how to do it.
Going to fund the school. What's that, Leonard?
Well, see, here's the fundamental problem. Again, let's just go back to basic economics here. I don't have to be a finance guy, but I can see a train coming down the track, and I know I'm smart enough to get out of the way because it doesn't look like it's applying the brakes. But what's amazing to me is that the very thing that we use, even from a realistic, I call it a biblical perspective, is the income tax. Now, we're trying to get rid of that, which makes no sense at all, because now if you boom the economy and people start working, the government actually increases the amount it takes in. But if you keep starving it, and then you're robbing the people of the very base that you need to support it, you've lost your mind. So we need to start building the economy up, bringing people to Ohio, driving the true home ownership, making it attractive for businesses, put people to work, and bingo, there is your economic boom. But we just keep sucking the life out of the people from the property tax, and again, you cannot sustain that.
Oh no, it's we've gone beyond what is sustainable. So Jennifer Gross put that up, says you guys rock. Great thoughts, Leonard. All right, there's our hero. Most are tone deaf. And I will
Joe,
bet,
I've got another.
I will bet that she is going to be there a week from tomorrow and
Oh, yeah.
voting. So
I'm counting on Rep.
Jennifer Gross, you're going to be there a week from tomorrow, I would assume. So give us a thumbs up if you're going to be there, and we're counting on
Joe,
it. We're counting on it. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Can I make another comment, Joe? In question, I get it all the time, even from our administrator here in Concord Township. But Leonard and I were speaking at Lifeline in church this week, and the comments that we get, well, how are we going to pay for police and fire, roads and bridges, that sort of thing? And we're telling everyone we're going to pay for these governmental services. It's just that we want them, it'd be a fee-based structure so that they send us a bill, they being the municipality, they send us a bill for the services. It says, Brian, you are paying X, you're going to pay X number of dollars for your police, X number of dollars for your fire department and your roads and bridges and the administration. I don't want to see just one lump sum of I'm paying $2,000 to Concord Township. I want to find out what am I paying for, because I want to find out how efficient are they. Is our fire department is that as efficient as the municipality next to us? How about the roads and bridges? So the idea that we're going to not pay for the services is just not true, and that's fear mongering by a lot of people. And they're saying, well, the police and fire are going to have to fold up and you won't get the services. That's just not true. What Auditor Galloway and Treasurer Zern told us in a meeting when our committee had a meeting with them, and they said, well, Brian, if you eliminate the property taxes, we're not going to need an auditor and a treasurer. And our response was, well, okay, we're all right with that, because that's as Jonathan said, that's the idea of trying to reduce the expenditures on government. And what people don't realize is that property taxes are the most expensive tax to administer when you consider all of the third-party companies that are appraising the value. And that's the other problem. You've got third-party appraisers controlling our destiny. They're telling us, what the value of our home is, and we have to prove them wrong. They won't give us, how they calculate it, because that's all proprietary. So they're controlling our destiny, but they're not accountable to us. That's taxation without representation, and is not acceptable. But when you think about $1.8 million for Lake County, and you multiply that by 88 counties, how much money is spent at the state level, tracking all of these property taxes, and we're being told that the state is dictating how much the property values are going to have to increase. So this cockamamie idea that it's all based on local sales. Somebody at the state is determining, when they see the tax budgets of the schools, they're determining how much the schools need.
Okay, you guys have that's very good, very good. You guys have nothing to worry about, though. We have absolutely nothing to worry about. Why? Because Governor DeWine has it all figured out. Has it all figured out? We got it right here next.
He did not send us an invite.
Listen,
Can you add the
announced
thumbs down barf emoji to that? Because that's just that's at least 10 years behind schedule. That's just ridiculous.
Wait, he's going to put together a committee that is going to look into property tax reform, and we have nothing to worry about.
Well, I'll start at the top of the list. The thing we have to worry about is Mike DeWine himself, which is a great opportunity for a plug for Ohio Rhino Hunters. So follow us at Ohio Rhino Hunters, because we talk about people like Mike DeWine. But it pays to go back a step here and reiterate what we've said numerous times on this program, and that is the way that we fund public, I'm air quoting that, public schools, government schools is more like it. The way that we fund government schools in Ohio has been ruled unconstitutional, 3 times now? So the whole notion of you can't do that because we won't have our $1 zillion slush fund is preposterous on its face. We all know, and America woke up, and in particular, Ohio woke up during COVID to just how bad our schools have become. Bloated budget, we have disastrous administration, overworked and underpaid teachers. We have promises that we can't keep up with in our education retirement systems. The whole thing is a convoluted mess, and we just can't. We left the period where we might kick the can down the road a decade ago. And then we managed 7 more years. COVID woke people up, and now is the time to capitalize on the awareness of these issues and push back. We can right-size this whole education budget virtually overnight. We absolutely have to. First and foremost, let's just for a moment park the whole notion of expense and what we're spending and get the focus back to educating children, because we've lost that along the way as well. We are not properly educating children at about 10 times the actual cost. The whole thing is broken. We know it. Our state Supreme Court has ruled it unconstitutional, the way we fund government education 3 times. We have to fix it. That's my point. We have to roll up our sleeves, put on our thinking caps. Let's get out the blank legal pads and rework this thing, because it's fundamentally, horrendously, awfully broken. And it's leading to worse and worse ramifications, including worsening education environment with children not prepared to compete in the global marketplace. And it's leading to homelessness, all of which is bad. We have to fix it.
All right. So,
and Jonathan, I can address that. It's Elgin, isn't? Yeah, Elgin. We have heard that also. We've talked to people about the local property taxes, and many people are saying, "Well, I can pay my taxes. I'm not worried about it." And we say, "Well, what about your neighbor?" And the response we get, "Well, that's their problem." So this whole concept of love thy neighbor as a commandment and not a suggestion, that's part of the problem that we have in our society. we're only worried. We want to make sure we've got our bases covered, just like the government. They want to make sure they got their bases covered. But if somebody down the street is having some problem, well, that's their problem. Well, we, Lobbies for Citizens, and our committee, we're looking out for the person that cannot. Just like that lady in Ashtabula that I interviewed and I videoed. We've got down in Cincinnati, we got 4 or 5 more videos of people that are saying they're being, priced out of their home that they've lived all their life. It's just not acceptable. It is immoral that these property taxes are so high that people are going to have to move out. It's just
I'll take it one step
at all.
further. Sorry, Brian. I'll take it one step
go ahead.
further. And I tell those people it's only a matter of time. Because if you agree that I gave the analogy before. It was I actually in a conversation with a friend of mine who was talking about kind of the water level being right here, and all it takes is just a little bit more, and some people can't breathe. If you're just a little bit taller, the water continues to rise. Eventually, it doesn't matter how tall you are, you're going to drown. And the trajectory is showing no signs of easing. So if you're fortunate enough to not care of the continuing cost, and again, I'm going to flip back to focusing only on money. And we're going to set aside the fact that we are not properly educating children just for a moment to address the part of the equation that Brian just brought up, which is I can afford it, so I'm not going to bother because who cares if my neighbor ends up homeless? Eventually, that's going to be you. It will be you. And I don't care how much money you have. If you are a billionaire, eventually you will feel the pain. And maybe ignoring it trying to ignore it indefinitely. What's the expression? It's first they came for the Jews. Then they came and I didn't care because I wasn't Jewish. Then they came for the Christians and I didn't care because I wasn't Christian. And eventually they came for me and there was nobody left to defend me. That expression, I've paraphrased it, that expression applies in many aspects of life. And when it comes to your neighbors being taxed out of their residence, it's time for you, I don't care how much money you have, pay attention and care. We have to, because it will continue to rise. And eventually you're either going to be a multi-billionaire that's insulated from this and not care, and you won't have any residents left anymore. Your entire neighborhood will be gone because everyone will be homeless. Then, of course, you'll have all the crime connected to it, like we see in places like Southern California. My point, to simplify my point here, you have to start caring at some point, and I suggest that time is now.
Yeah, it's definitely now. We have to start caring. Also, we got Bob Frantz coming up soon. He should be coming up any minute, and hopefully we'll have him on, and that's going to be interesting. It's going to be real interesting. We talk to him about that. Let's see what. This whole thing with the taxes, it's unreal. It's just so. But thank God for this movement, and this property tax movement, and everything to try to make a change, because this is the one thing they didn't count on. And they thought that they could just keep upping property taxes, upping them. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They just want money. As long as they're sitting pretty with their money, that's all they care about. Well, those days are over, okay? People are aware of what's going on. And we've got a really good legislature out there. We had Dave Thomas on. Jennifer Gross is out there in the chat room. There's a lot. There are a lot of really good lawmakers. So we're
so we've got
definitely
actually
in the right direction here. Yeah,
there's some great comments.
From Jennifer.
There are some great comments coming up. Rep Gross, and then somebody else made the comment. It's a great point that they bring up. Maybe I can afford to pay, but what about my children and the children's children, the next generation? Can they afford to pay those exorbitant taxes? And the answer clearly is no. What do we have now? The average home buying age is somewhere in the late 20s. There are people graduating.
It's now 38, Jonathan.
38. Oh my gosh, that's horrendously awful. So
It
we
used
now
to be
have
28.
people graduating from college with no hope. of buying a home. That's awful. We need to fix that.
We got to fix it. All right, hang on. I got to get a drum roll going because I think our guest is with us. I get you over here. Hey, Bob, how are you? It's good to see you. Bob Frantz with...
Well, I'm not talking without that drum roll. You promised it.
we got some confetti.
Where's the drum roll?
Here we go.
Oh,
All
there's
right,
applause.
little confetti, that'll work. I'll take that, too.
That'll do it. Right. Very good. Good to see you. 1420 AM radio. You are a legend in this area. You are an absolute legend.
You got to
we're
stop throwing words
glad
like
that
that
you were.
around when you're talking about me.
We're just glad that you were able to come on this peon show. Okay, I'm thrilled. So
No, not at all. It's a pleasure. I have great respect for all the work you guys do, especially Jonathan, whom I've been talking to for a long time, a number of years on my program. I've learned a lot from him in a lot of different ways. So, no, it's an honor to be here, you guys. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed the conversation so far.
Okay, great. Let me do this. You don't need a lot of an introduction. People know who you are, I would think, and the radio show and the conservative, and it's a very popular show. And you have great guests. It's entertaining, the whole work. So, again, the whole thing, strictly speaking, with Bob Frantz, it's A1. Let's do this, Bob. I want to just get into this real quick. This right here, I mean, we're on the 1-year anniversary, and I wanted to get your take on this because, my gosh, for me at least, we don't have any answered questions.
No.
It's been a year. This lunatic with a rifle, how he gets into the crowd and up on that roof carrying a rifle with him everywhere he goes, and then he pot shots a couple times the ear of the president. I mean, it's just so crazy. Look at this, everybody. And that Secret Service, say what you will, but they were more like the Keystone Cops in Pennsylvania than anything. It was ridiculous. Here he is saying, fight, fight, fight. But I wanted to get your take on that, if you had any thoughts on it, the 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, well, first of all, a little self-promotion here, if I can, because I wrote about this morning, or what was sent to inboxes this morning in my newsletter. I have a newsletter that is now 20 weeks old. This is the 20th issue. It comes out every Sunday morning. It's called Strictly Speaking This Week, and it's kind of a compendium of the news of the past week as I see it, important things that I need to share, commentary that I give on it, and then also what's coming. And I break it down into 5 things to know and 5 things to do, because I want people to be active, if not activists, to be active anyway. So today, as you can imagine, the first item on, and by the way, if you would like to subscribe to it, which is the whole promotional part of this thing too, and I certainly would love to do it. It's Ohio intensive, but it is of course national as well. All of the things that we deal with that affect us here in Ohio on the national stage. So if you would like to subscribe to my newsletter, it's free. Comes out every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. I like to get it out early so people can read it before church or whatever it is that they're going to do. But go to my website, which is strictlyspeaking.org. And after about 3 seconds of going to the homepage, there'll be a pop-up there. And you just put in your name and email address, and you'll get it for free in your inbox. Item number 1 on things to know this week was, Jim, that we don't, or Joe, I mean, we don't know anything. We don't know anything. All 3 of you guys, and I don't know how you guys do this, if we all take turns or what, but we don't know enough about this. This has been a calendar year, and we have spent a calendar year learning nothing. We have become a nation of cover-ups. I swear to you, I mean, every show I do lately, I'm talking about either the cover-up of AutoPen, the cover-up of the actual cognitive and mental decline of Joe Biden and who was really running the country. We just saw his doctor before, the oversight committee 14 times saying, I refuse to answer on the grounds that it's not even a criminal trial, criminal investigation. It should be, but it's a non-criminal investigation, but yet his doctor wouldn't even say anything about the condition. That's a cover-up. This is a cover-up. They're still covering up, what really happened with COVID. We're seeing of course, the Epstein thing, which I'm livid about, quite frankly. So in this particular case, we could probably make, in my opinion, guys, a case for any one of those individual things to be the worst cover-up we've seen in maybe the last half century, the last 25 years, maybe longer, I don't know. But this particular one is the most important, because our former president, and at the time the leading candidate to become president again, was nearly murdered on live television. And in the calendar year since then, as I wrote about in the piece, we know nothing about what drove Thomas Matthew Crooks to do this. Nothing. They cremated his body within 48 hours, so no toxicology test could be conducted to see what he was on or what he was maybe given. His house was completely professionally scrubbed. You mentioned the Secret Service. They have only been barely punished. 6 of them got 10 to 42 days of suspension. Nobody got fired except for the lead woman who said, in answer to why was nobody on that roof that the shooter was shooting from? Wouldn't that be a prime location if somebody wanted to be a sniper? How come we didn't have people up there? And she said, well, it was a little dangerous because it was sloped.
Right,
it was like,
right.
It was like this much of a slope.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I know, it was almost flat. It was almost completely flat right there.
We know nothing. Is my point, Joe. Joe, we know nothing about this so far. And I'm more PO'd about that than even all of the other cover-ups that have me very upset right now.
Well, Epstein's a big cover-up, but before we do anything else, listen, I got to just promo this because you were just talking about it. So this is your website, correct? Strictly
Yes,
Speaking.
correct.
So just go to the website and do what? Hit that email the show?
If you go to strictlyspeaking.org, the homepage. In fact, I bet if you just click home up there, the newsletter join thing will pop up. That was one of my featured interviews that I just did. Give it about 3, 2, 1. It should pop up here any second now, where you can sign up for the newsletter. Although, since it's not happening right now for some strange reason, what you do see in the right margin there is the other place to sign up. So
Okay.
you can do it on the right margin there too. So just put in first, last name, and email address, and people can get it. Thank you for that promotion. I appreciate it.
No, it's great. Okay. Well, like I said, let's open it up a little bit here. Does anybody want to ask him anything?
Yeah, I just want who is to blame for this? Is it the Republican Party? I mean, we saw the Democrats go after Donald Trump, with the lawfare. They're able to do it, but the Republicans don't seem to be able to do anything.
Well, are we still talking about the assassination attempt and the investigation?
Yeah. I just why don't the Republicans say, well, this is not acceptable?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I don't understand our party, and I don't understand our leaders, to be quite frank. Because we can go to the Epstein thing too and talk a little bit about that. There are things that were promised by, and by the way, I need to make this very, very clear. You can be MAGA. You can be pro-Trump. You can be pro-America first and all in. And I am all of those things, particularly the big, beautiful bill. I am willing to deal with, through my gritted teeth, the deficits and the debt in order to pass his signature domestic agenda. It had to happen with the tax cuts, being permanent. The economy is going to boom because of that. With the border control and the school choice and the military being funded in a very hostile, world right now. I am all about everything that Trump is for, but that doesn't mean we can't ask questions about certain things. And President Trump seems strangely okay with the attempt on his life not being, fully investigated. Or what he has said is something to the effect of, the investigation was done, the Secret Service had a bad day. I watched that this morning on Fox News this morning, or whatever it was called, it doesn't matter. But he literally said they had a bad day, and so it's okay now. And I'm thinking, this kid, this 20-year-old, didn't just ride in on his little bike there with his rifle on his back and scale a roof with nobody noticing it. And in fact, we've seen countless numbers of videos of people actually saying, hey, there's a guy on the roof. There's a guy on the roof who might actually have a gun. And they did nothing about it. And he stayed there long enough to get off 8 shots. None of that can happen accidentally.
No.
And so
no.
But if the president, to your point, Brian, if the president and the Republican Party don't want answers, then I guess there's never going to be answers. I don't know why that is. I think it's one of the most discouraging thing. I think that's the word. I'm discouraged, I think, a little bit now that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's just so crazy with Trump in there and everything. You would think they'd start to get to the bottom of what happened, and they're just brushing it off. And he's brushing off the Epstein files. And it's just that to me, unless, and let me ask you this, can there be a deeper reason that Trump is doing something like this? I mean, maybe they're investigating it and they don't want to let on to the fact that they're investigating. You think that's a possibility at all? Because it's too weird. It's just too weird.
I don't think so, only because why would it be difficult for them to say we're still investigating? We have a lot of information to comb through. We have hundreds of pages, volumes of videos and photographs and everything else about what went on over there. And we're compiling everything, and we're trying to make sure that we know who was there in only, in an innocent way. In other words, there were a lot of people who visited him. He had a lot of friends. He was a financier and so forth. And a lot of people went there that had no idea that there were terrible things going on there. And so we're trying to make sure nobody gets caught up in it. That's what Bill O'Reilly and Victor Davis Hanson, just to name two, have said in recent days, that maybe what President Trump is doing is saying we're not going to release lists of names because people aren't going to take the time to find out context on what everybody who knew Epstein, flew with Epstein, or went to that island were there for. People aren't going to say, okay, now let's figure out who the pedophiles were and who were the actual people who had no idea that crap was going on. And so because of that, he doesn't want to just give a list of names that would be irresponsible and maybe sweep up a whole lot of people into a place where they don't belong. Maybe that's the case. But I cannot understand Pam Bondi saying the list is on my desk. I cannot understand them going through the whole thing where they said, we have a list, we have a bunch of information, it's being given to certain members of the media. This is only phase one. There are many other phases to come. And then to have President Trump say what he said on Friday, it's like, I don't know why everybody's still talking about this guy. Nobody cares about Jeffrey Epstein anymore. Guess who cares about Jeffrey Epstein? Hundreds, if not thousands, of young kids, girls and boys, who were trafficked to and fed to the sick animalistic pedophiles on that island. I guarantee you they still care. And as long as those monsters who went to that island are still walking among us, we have to care. Who else are they still, preying upon? And the idea that our president, whom I have an enormous amount of respect and love for, is just saying it's over now, let's forget about it. And I'm not the only one. I saw an article on Gateway Pundit today, and I don't know if you saw it, and I don't know who tracks this sort of thing, but for the first time on Truth Social since he created it, President Trump got ratioed. There were more people commenting and criticizing than who were liking and or sharing his post about let's forget about Jeffrey Epstein. So people in MAGA, our orbit, perhaps, they're not having it, man. They're not having it, and they want answers. And it's okay to say you are not sacrificing your spot under the America First tent by saying I want answers from our president. It's answers are deserved here.
Well, I was absolutely livid. I was absolutely livid with that. And by the way, if you're with his response to that, and the whole thing with Pam Bondi, I can't stand Pam Bondi anymore. Bongino, I hope he doesn't quit. There's just so much turmoil going on. It's a typical Trump cabinet. I mean, everybody is just
What about the wife of the gentleman that was killed? Isn't she deserving of answers? Who killed her husband and why?
At the Butler.
You're going back to the assassination.
Butler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I saw an interview with her this morning too. I don't remember where, and all of my news absorbing, that we all do, I think. But yeah, she, we're sitting here saying, hey, it's 1 year since the attempt on Donald Trump's life. She's sitting there saying it's 1 year since they killed my husband, a firefighter named Corey Comparatore. And yeah, her life is obviously, altered forever, and she deserves answers. Absolutely. I don't know why, again, there isn't a bigger outcry for a full investigation and the full results of the investigation in full transparency to be made public on both of those cases, the attempt on his life and then the Epstein thing. I really am at a loss, but I can tell you this, one thing I'm encouraging people to do, going back to my newsletter again, sorry for the self-promotion here, but I want to, on the number one item on the things to do part of 5 things to do this week is do not give up on the list. Do what needs to be done. Contact your senator. I'm contacting Bernie Moreno. I'm contacting John Husted. I'm going to contact every member of the Ohio delegation to Congress that I can and say, Do not stop. We want more investigations. If we're not going to get them from Pam Bondi for whatever reason, if the president is saying it's not important, it doesn't mean Congress has to, has to agree. Do what needs to be done to get us answers for this, because, and I understand it may embarrass some people. By the way, I refuse. The one thing I want to say very clearly is any of the leftist idiots are saying the reason Trump is saying forget about Epstein is because he's on the list. Are you kidding me? They tried to jail him. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to kill him, for crying out loud. You're telling me if they knew that Donald Trump's name was on that list, that somebody in the Biden sphere wouldn't have leaked that like they leaked so many other things, or manufactured something that would lead to that conclusion, just like they manufactured the Trump-Russia collusion hoax? They would have done anything they could to link Trump to this. So this is not about personal, Trump is not doing this out of personal protection. Maybe there's donors. Maybe there's, political allies, diplomats with whom, we have great relationships. And if we expose their role in any of this, it will damage U.S. international relations with others. And maybe there's a bigger picture here we're not seeing. I am willing to accept those as possibilities. But if that is the case, they need to do better than just, hey, nobody cares about Epstein anymore. Move on.
Yeah, that's not going to cut it. Okay, I got to play something here. Jonathan, you had mentioned this on a text message. This woman who is from the CPAC from Hungary. I'm gonna play a little bit. I'm gonna play a little bit of it.
Great comments.
It's off the charts. We'll get Bob's take on this too. I'll get your take on it. But let's just play. I'm gonna play bits and pieces of it. I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I'll play a few bits and pieces.
That there is a link between mass migration and crime. Our new reality in Europe consists of frequent rapes, stabbings, killings, murders, shootings, even beheadings. But let me be clear about one thing. This did not used to happen before. This is a newly imported problem. If we don't...
I like what she says there. It's an imported problem.
Yep.
She's talking about all the mass migration that is coming into Europe. And,
intentionally imported.
Intentionally imported.
To seriously fight for our continent, for our religion, for our people, our countries, then this time that we live in will go down in history as the time in which Western nations no longer had to get invaded by hostile armies in order to be conquered. This time will then go down in history as the period in which the invader was actively invited in by a corrupt elite. The native...
I mean, that's very strong, and it's very, very powerful the way she's presenting it there at that CPAC. What is her name? I just downloaded it. I didn't even check on her name, but it doesn't matter.
I'm not sure I can. I even speak German, but I'm not sure I can pronounce her last name. I'll look it up. But actually, so anybody that follows me on social media, you'll find I posted it earlier today on X, Truth Social, and other platforms. You can find the full comments. It's like 7 or 8 minutes. It's worth watching.
Okay, I got one more minute. We'll play it, and then I'll get to your comments. I want to get Bob's comments on this also.
Christian European population is being replaced at an ever-accelerating rate. Amsterdam currently consists of 56% migrants. The Hague, 58% migrants. Rotterdam, almost 60% migrants. And of course, most of these immigrants come from non-Christian, non-Western, African and Middle Eastern countries. Conclusion, the Dutch population is already outnumbered in the majority of our cities. London, 54% migrants. Brussels, color me shocked, 70% migrants. The Great Replacement theory is no longer a theory. It's reality.
All right, Bob. I don't know if you caught that, but those are pretty alarming statistics. We're talking about Europe. We're talking about the invasion of, Muslims, Arabs, you name it, into those countries where now they are the vast majority, well over 50%. They don't have the same belief anymore. They don't have the same worship. Christianity. They don't speak the language. They have nothing to do with the white culture. It's almost like to eliminate and get rid of the white culture. That's exactly what's going on there. I just want to, I mean, it's frightening. And thank God we got Trump here, because he's trying to undo that mess that clearly Biden was doing as well.
Yeah, I don't know that I would probably phrase it white culture. It's certainly Western culture that they're trying to erase, is what I'm taking away. And everything, by the way, that she said is spot on about the intentional importing of these people. I saw a post earlier today, and it was either from Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro, one of the Daily Wire guys, I think it was, and it showed a picture of like midday London in 1970. And it was just like so, there was so much open air and so much space, the crowds of people where there was tons of room between them. The point being, this is what it used to be like before, this intentional mass migration that you just played and that they're talking about. And it's not only the great replacement theory coming to reality. They're trying to import people from different cultures who have no interest whatsoever in assimilation to that particular city or country's culture in Western Europe. They're trying very, very hard to bring in people who will break the existing culture, because that is the best way, of course, to take down, a Western civilization nation. It's to splinter it. From within. And I'm not breaking any new news here. Everybody knows that's what the goal is here of the radical left and the globalists who salutes Klaus Schwab and the WEF and the WHO and the IMF and all the rest of them here in the United States. It's why we had somewhere between 12 and 20 million illegals come across in the last 5 years, representing, I believe, at last count before Biden left, 165 of the 190 plus countries in this country. They're not all coming from Central America. They're not all coming from Latin America. They're coming from all over the world. And it's just, and they come here and do what? And not say, oh my gosh, thank you for letting me be here. I love America. Let me wave this flag, these stars and stripes. No, they come in here spitting and pissing, on the American flag and flying the one from the country they just fled.
Yeah.
It is absolutely intentional. And they're not only destroying the culture, they're also changing the laws. Because even in the UK now, if you say something negative, like I just did about some of these migrants who are coming in here, if you offend the wrong person in a social media post, it's not just cancel culture where you lose your account. Wait, Ken, that's nothing. Now you're under arrest. Now you can actually be put in jail for offending somebody if it's deemed to be intentional and egregious. However they determine that in the British courts, I don't know. But that's real across the UK right now. And I talked to some folks. I've done a podcast with a UK media person there, and they're terrified that they're literally losing their freedoms.
No, they are losing it. Jonathan, you sent that. I got that off of your text or whatever. What's your thoughts on that? There's just a hell of a good speech that woman gave. Just a hell.
It was a spectacular speech. All right, so I've been making some notes here because I've been biting my tongue a little bit because I get a frequent chance to speak with Bob Frantz. I wanted you guys to have opportunity to chat with him. So going back in no particular order, I suggest listening to that speech because there's a key element that Joe hasn't played yet. It has to do with how this is being pitched to the public, and that is diversity is our strength, or some other kitschy sort of catchphrase. Diversity is our strength is sort of this cover story for mass migration, and it's mass migration with an intended purpose. It is to disrupt and usurp existing cultures in various places throughout the West. We're seeing it in Europe. It's come up a few times on this show. Not everybody knows this, but I was an exchange student and lived in Germany years ago. And I have some German friends, including a very close friend who owns a toy store in Berlin. And I'm hearing the same story all across Europe, from France to Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, major cities, Ireland, all throughout the UK. There is mass invasion, and there's really no other way to put it. And this whole thing, this whole song and dance about diversity being our strength, and then people called all sorts of nonsense names. Again, we're back to the name calling from the left for anybody that questions it. You're called either racist or xenophobic or whatever. But the reality is, and people, that's where people need to put on their big boy pants and stand up to the name calling. The reality is violent crime is escalating. There are good elements from those societies that might come and visit and might move here with a love or appreciation for America and the West, but they're not being picked. They're not being selected to migrate into Western culture. The people who are the criminal element, the gangs and the people intended to disrupt. If you're like me and you follow social media, Matt Walsh and a bunch of other great conservative voices out there, I've seen probably no fewer than 100 times the analogy on social media of the red ants and the black ants. And if you haven't heard it, it goes basically something like this. You can have an ant farm and put ants in a jar together. The red ants and the black ants will get along just fine and go about their business until you shake the jar and make them angry, and they will fight. That's what's happening right now. We have antagonism coming from both sides that's antagonizing lots of different people. And at the same time, unfortunately, we have identity politics inserting itself, which of course brings us back again to the whole conversation about K through 12 education and what's being pumped into our children's brains right now. I cover it in great length on this program, going back to my beginnings 5 years ago now with Protect Ohio Children. This is being cultivated with intention. It gets a little complex, so we could do a whole special segment on it, but it's important enough. I wanted to pause and kind of put the whole big picture, as ugly as it is, into context. I have a couple of other notes, but I don't want to occupy too much time. I will actually, if we have time before the show ends, go back to some of the earlier things that Bob said, but for now, I'll yield.
Sure.
Yeah, you yield, huh? All right.
I got you.
Let's switch gears here for a second, Bob. I'm going to ask you a couple other questions here. This map here, it's all red. This is the Ramaswamy tsunami. Your thoughts on Ramaswamy? Yeah, the Ramaswamy tsunami. This is the Ohio Republican Party projected outcome in 2026. What's your thoughts on Vivek?
Well, I've never seen anything quite like what's happened with this gubernatorial race, which ended before it began. Because, I mean, literally, as soon as Vivek said, okay, I'm going to go lead Doge with Elon Musk, and then said, no, I'm not, I'm going to run for governor. And the next day, Donald Trump says he's my he has my full and total endorsement to be the governor of Ohio. It was over. I mean, how many guys were thinking about running for governor who just backed out immediately? Sprague did that. Obviously, Yost stayed in it and launched his campaign, but it ended about as quickly as it began. And I like Dave Yost. I like a lot of things about him. But between the Trump endorsement and I think the Vance endorsement, I think Bernie Moreno endorsed him already. And then, of course, the Ohio Republican Party got together and endorsed him. They didn't want a primary of any kind whatsoever. He's the guy. And so we need to accept that, first of all. And second of all, I like him. I do. There's a lot to like. Do I have every answer to every question that from him that I want yet? No, it's still very, very early. It's July of 25, so we have a long way to go, and he'll have to become a little more, crystal clear on some of the policies he's proposing. But the reality is he's going to be the next governor, guys. He is going to steamroll, obviously, to the nomination because there's nobody else. Everybody else that was a name fell already. And what are the Democrats going to do? Amy Acton? Really? I know Sherrod Brown is like tinkering between running to take Husted's, get back in the Senate, or maybe run for this. And maybe he's got enough of a name. Tim Ryan doesn't have enough pull statewide. Vivek is going to be the guy. To me, he strikes all the right chords 99% of the time. I've had him on my show a handful of times already since he's made his announcement. And even back before when he kind of was just breaking into the political game and before he ran for president. There's a lot to like. He's very smooth. He's very J.D. Vance. And the fact that they're both about the same age from Cincinnati and, they have very similar, family structures as well. Given the fact that J.D. is married to an Indian woman and Vivek and his family are Indian. And there's a lot to like. There really is, and so
there is, yeah.
I'm just hopeful. I'm just hopeful that the things that we don't know about him when we get answers are good things, and any problems that anybody has about some of his past connections and some of his H-1B visa or H-1B or HB-1. I always mess that up. Visas. There are a lot of things people have problems with, but I've talked to him about those things. I've been satisfied with the answers, and I'm perfectly fine if Vivek Ramaswamy is our next governor. He will be light years better than Rhino, who wasn't hunted in time, Mike DeWine. I can promise you that.
Oh my God, yeah, I promise you that too. I'm counting the days till we get rid of DeWine. And speaking of which, coming up a week from tomorrow, they're going to be voting to undo the vetoes by Governor DeWine. 3 property tax vetoes. We were talking about it earlier. We had Dave Thomas on before you came on, and so he's out vacationing, so we didn't want to keep him on too long. But so he's on. They're somebody from Japan. One of the state reps is in Japan. They're going to make their way over and attend that meeting. So he says they got the votes, which is great. Only 3 of the 4 property tax issues they're going to try to override. And the biggest of them all they didn't want to touch. That was that 40% cap that schools are allowed to carry over, in income and stuff like that. Let me ask you this.
Do we have a problem with that, guys, if I may? I heard Dave say that. Do we have a problem with that? I was talking to somebody yesterday who mentioned that. And first of all, they're going to bring people back from their vacations and trips and whatnot to just override 3 out of 67 vetoes. I'm trying to understand how there are 67 vetoes and everybody's okay with 64 of them. This is a biennial budget passed by a supermajority Republican General Assembly. And it was handed to a Republican governor, and he slashed 67 individual things out of it. First of all, that answers the questions about Mike DeWine and who he is. Not that we didn't already know that from COVID and previous experiences about what a true rhino he is. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, we got it. That entire budget passed with veto-proof majorities. Why wouldn't anybody who voted for the overall budget not vote to override vetoes of any items within said budget? You were okay with them when you actually made your first vote. So I want to know why leadership isn't going after more of these. And why, as you just pointed out, why only 3 of the 4 property tax items? And why not the 4th? Why is that one just being, I don't know why. I don't know who to talk to. Is it Huffman or McCauley or what? But why are they only addressing 3 out of the 4? I have a problem with that.
Yeah, and
I'm with you there.
Especially when the 4th one is the big one too.
The big one.
They're going to push that one onto this.
I'll tell you, Bob, if Huffman will take a call from you, ring him up, because I have a feeling I joined Stephanie's stock a while ago and have been taking some shots at Huffman. I have a feeling he's not my biggest fan at this point, but I do still send emails. I'm absolutely right there with you. 67 line item vetoes. Why in the heck aren't we advocating and shouting from rooftops for our reps to get back into Columbus and override a lot of those? We've got medical freedom hanging in the balance. We've got all kinds of other important things having to do with protecting children that are all line item vetoed. And why is it that our reps in Columbus are turning a blind eye to 64 out of the 67? It's a mystery to me. I'm right there with you.
The only thing I can think of, Jonathan, is that they knew that he would veto these things, and maybe these things aren't popular in their particular districts. So they said, "Look, we voted for it. We know he's going to veto them, and that way they can go back to their districts, each of these representatives, and say, hey, look, I know that was important to you, here, and I voted for it. It was in the budget. We did our jobs. We passed it. We can't control what the governor does." Maybe they knew that ahead of time, and this is their way out of maybe controversial, one of the controversial items in that budget. And that's the only thing I can think of why they wouldn't say, hey, we passed it because we like it. We're going to override you, Mr. Governor. Why they are just sitting back and saying, just 3 of them. We'll let you have 64 of them is, like I said, it's a mystery, but maybe it's a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mystery, because you're going to bring everybody to come back in on vacation to come in and vote, and you think that there would be more than just 3 property tax issues, and they're kind of they do have some impact, but not a lot. So that is a little bit crazy as to why they're doing that.
Well, the library book veto too.
The library stuff. Yeah,
pornographic literature and
Yep.
pornographic illustrations and stuff that they passed it and saying this stuff shall be shielded from minors, for crying out loud, as it should be. And Mike DeWine looks at that and says, no, it shouldn't. Little kids should have access to all of the pornographic materials that they want. What? Make Mike DeWine defend that and then override his butt. I don't understand that. Why they would be like, yeah, we're not going to, as long as we're calling everybody back from all corners of the globe, including Japan. How about we
get something done? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I tell you one thing. Dave Thomas had said that. I said, well, why don't you guys veto that fourth property tax item? And he said, we don't have the votes. So.
Well, that's possible. And actually, just clarifying something, Joe, I didn't take from Rep. Thomas's comments that he feels confident that he has the votes for the other three. I think it sounds to me like it's going to be a battle, and he's close. So that brings us to one of the key points behind Bob Frantz's weekly newsletter, his radio program, and the comments that Rep. Thomas made just before earlier on this podcast. That is, get active, people. If you're watching this, if you are aggravated by any of these issues, that's your call to pick up the phone, send an email, get a hold of your rep. That's what this is all about. We do this show, and Bob Frantz does his radio program and the newsletter so that we can inform you and get information about what's happening in Columbus and other parts of Ohio and the nation. It falls on, if it falls on deaf ears and we don't get action, it's going to go nowhere. We heard from Rep. Thomas that about every 5 minutes, the other side are advocating for them to let the overrides, or to let the vetoes rather, sit and to not override. We need to counter that with the voice and will of we the people. Remember, representative government, that's your cue. Get active, get a hold of your local rep, and advocate for the things that you care about.
Okay, very good.
Joe,
go ahead, Brian.
Can I chime in here?
Sure.
When I hear all of this, what I think about is Ron Young's final statement as a commissioner in Lake County. The two top priorities of government is to protect itself and grow. The two top priorities of any politician is to protect themselves and make sure they get reelected. No mention of what's in the best interest of the average citizen.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe every bit of that. I believe every bit of that. And everybody that I've talked to when they go into Congress for the first time, and I'm sure it's the same way in Columbus, but they spend maybe 6 months actually being idealistic enough to think that the things that got them elected that they can actually work on before they realize 6 months in, you are now in re-election mode. You now have 18 months before you have to face the voters again. So we're going to do things about protecting and preserving ourselves rather than what is right by the constituents that put us here in the first place. If we want them to put us back in again, we immediately have to go into that mode. It is self-preservation first, last, and always, quite frankly.
Well, that comes back to an informed electorate. We have to have an informed electorate, and that's where we struggle. We have people who vote. I can't even venture a guess what they vote for, hairstyle or identity or whatever. We vote, and starting at the local level, you can see it over and over again. People get voted into school board because they're a former classmate or you like their last name or something. For heaven's sakes, we need to do a better job as a society of informing ourselves about the issues around us and the people who we're electing to represent our interests. So that, I know I've said it before, I'm kind of harping on an existing topic. I've said that numerous times on this program. But Joe, if you'll let me interject a couple of comments, I do have a couple of notes. I'm going to sort of flash back with a lot of people looking for opportunity to ask questions and interject. So while things were progressing, I made a few notes. One is, find Bob Frantz on Strictly Speaking. He's on 1420 AM local in Northern Ohio, but through the great wonders of the internet, you can find Strictly Speaking and listen to him anywhere. I suggested he has great guests, and covers important topics. It's generally tends to be Ohio focused, but then also includes a lot in the nation. Get active, for heaven's sakes. When the issue came up of our 1-year anniversary of the shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania, that sort of set something off for me. And I'm going to use an analogy, and that is every once in a while I'm asked by my wife to go and do the grocery shopping. And it typically starts with a little bit of a list, and then, oh yeah, I forgot a few things, and the list grows, and then she sends a text message, and that can get sort of complicated. And I end up with this really long list. And for somebody like me who wants to go and get it done quickly and know that I have the right things and get back home again quickly, that gets a little bit frustrating. Our laundry list as a nation, our list of issues it's complete. We have an empty cart right now, and we have a massive and growing list. We have the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt. We still have J6 and all the video, and we have the Epstein tapes and who was or wasn't on the list. And no, it's not okay anymore. It is summarily not acceptable to continue to hear the answer from Trump or anybody else that we simply need to just sort of be patient and hang out and relax because somebody's working on something and maybe it's part of the plan. No, I say absolutely not. We need things tangible, well-defined in the cart. We have a list and we, the people, want to know the answers. And I actually hadn't seen that on Truth Social. Frankly, I'm glad to hear that Trump is getting ratioed on Truth Social because, and I'm about to go over there and add to it because I'm livid. No, we cannot continue to just simply say we're going to move that off the list. No, we need answers. And one other thing, I actually made a note of this. I think it's important on the 1-year anniversary of the assassination attempt that took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Go watch some of the videos of Dan Bongino. Excuse me, I said his name wrong. Dan Bongino talking about the prep work that went into being in the Secret Service before they went anywhere with anybody in close protection, especially a president, former president, or candidate for president. They did massive prep work. And just watching that video alone, watching Dan Bongino talk about what goes into the prep just tells us that no, Trump's comments about Butler, Pennsylvania are off the mark. It's not that they had a bad day. That does not ever happen with Secret Service. And so
massively bad day. Massively bad day.
Yeah. That's not possible. In my book, once you know a little bit about, or even just a small amount, about what goes into the prep work before an outdoor public speaking event like Butler, Pennsylvania, they have everything covered. Every roof, every angle.
They're supposed to.
Did you hear that they had a rookie? Yeah. They had a rookie that day who was organizing that particular security for that outdoor. It was her first ever outdoor event she had ever actually been the lead agent on, providing security for. Why isn't a rookie doing something like that for, I don't know, I don't want to say a first lady about it because I don't know exactly all of the individuals who get covered Secret Service protection for various events. But why is a former president, particularly one that has been targeted in so many ways by the left and has had death threats from even foreign countries like Iran, why would they hand the job of securing Butler and that open field to a rookie who had never done it before? That was something that came out of the report. So it's one of many questions. And by the way, let me be greedy once again. And Jonathan, thank you for those kind words about the show and promoting it. And I just want to promote this about tomorrow morning because I don't know what I'm in for. I don't know what I'm going to get. But there's an author, a documentarian whose name is J.D. Wilcox, and he has a documentary out right now called Who Shot Trump? And in it, because I heard a blurb of an interview he did with a national publication, he said it is a guarantee that there were at least two shooters.
Wow.
Guaranteed. And he can prove it, he says. It wasn't, all of the shots didn't come from that rooftop, that there was at least one more shooter. I don't know what I'm getting into, but I know that I'm hooked and I want to find that out.
Oh,
so
that's
he's
excellent.
on my show. He's on my show tomorrow at 10:35 a.m.
Okay.
JD Wilcox. Yeah,
10
JD Wilcox, 10:35.
10:35.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I got to make sure I'm tuning in. Leonard, I'll give you the last word tonight. Do you have a question or anything?
Well, first of all, let me thank Mr. Frantz for showing up on the show. I greatly appreciate it, and great comments and good feedback. One of the things I want to leave us with is that what amazes me after hearing us talk, I'm convinced of my position now wholesale as far as what's wrong with our society. I'm going to wrap it up like this, and Brian knows what I'm going to say. First of all, we are an ungodly society. We have no fear of God and no knowledge of who God is. Number two, we have an uneducated society because that was brilliantly designed by the communists and is manifests itself now as far as our population and what we see with it. And third, we have an impotent church. And what I mean by that is that when you get bad theology, it leads to bad lifeology. We are a culture of death. We don't have to worry about immigration. That's the least of our concerns. When you've aborted over 65 to 75 million babies, and those are the ones that we know of, you will literally destroy your society. And as we're sitting here talking about immigration, we got bigger issues than immigration. And my friend, one thing I want to leave you with is this. There's consequences for sin. And for those of you who are waiting for Jesus to come back and return, it's not going to be in your near future because God said right in his word, you will see hell unfold right before your eyes. So have a good night, gentlemen. And remember, if God gives us a chance to correct it, we better do it.
Oh,
Thanks, Brother
that's
Gilbert.
yeah, that's some inspiring words there. Very good. Bob,
I hated
thought?
everything he said about our culture. Leonard, I hated every word of it, but I'm glad you said it because it's true. Just because I hate it doesn't mean it's not true. I hate the fact that we are a culture of death. I hate the fact that we are slipping into all of those things that you are talking about right now. But you know what? If we don't admit it, acknowledge it, and address it and confront it, we will never, ever be able to cure it. So thank you for that, man. That was great.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Bob, thank you very much. God bless you and your forward. I'm going to be tuning in at 10:30. Absolutely. We got to find out more about that second shooter. Hey, thanks.
Hey, by the way, as long as we're doing that promo thing, you guys ever watch CNN and see Scott Jennings just destroying and totally, completely breaking the will of the leftists that he's on the panel with?
Oh yeah, he's
Scott
excellent.
Jennings. Yeah,
he is
Scott
amazing.
Scott Jennings is about to start a new show on Salem Radio on our company. He's going to be on at 2 p.m. Every day following Charlie Kirk, and I've got him live. We're going to talk about his new show tomorrow morning. Actually, about a half an hour before we talk to JD Wilcox, 10:05. We're going to be talking to Scott Jennings on that program too. So basically, what I'm saying is tune in at 9 o'clock and just stick around for the whole show. We got a lot of good stuff for you tomorrow.
You got it. All your shows are great. Bob, thanks again. Man, I hope we can have you on again sometime, okay?
Anytime. Joe, I appreciate it. And Brian and Jonathan, you guys are great pros. Thanks for all the work that you do. And anytime you need me, let me know.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Bob.
All
Thank you very
guys,
much,
Everybody take care. God
You got
bless.
it.
We'll see you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.